Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is just eat meat, and that's what you should do. But if you're hiking or road tripping or stuck at work and you want something nutritious that is just meat, fat, and possibly salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. I like this product not only because it is pure meat, but also because I really want the carnivore market to thrive as well. The more we support meat only products, the more people will make meat only products, and this will bring this into the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to check out, then take a look and use my discount code HTC to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right. Thanks, guys.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the How to Carnivore podcast. We're joined again by Dr. Anthony Chaffee, the plant-free MD. Anthony, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Simon. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And we've also got Sean Sako Sakinofsky here, who is a South African endurance cyclist who does not consume carbohydrates on extremely long rides in hot South African heat of up to 9 hours, I believe. So, Sean, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share my story.
Our pleasure. Now, what got you into the keto diet, particularly considering most cyclists, or the cyclists that I know, are total carb addicts? What got you into this way of eating and living?
Well, interestingly enough, in 2006 I founded a supplement company, which is still around today, and they primarily promote the usage of carbohydrate. Over my involvement with the company, I think I had a natural predisposition to veer away the consumption of carbohydrate back in 2011. No, well, 2009, I established that I was wheat intolerant and gluten intolerant. I battled all my life with going to the toilet. Something that people don't often talk about, but for me, being a regular and having a pain-free bowel movements was something that only I only came to realize was possible through the elimination of actually carbohydrate in general. But the journey of eliminating carbs out of my diet was basically came to a head when my father passed away from a terrible bout of esophageal cancer, which literally wasted a man who was a high carb eater. He promoted a healthier lifestyle, but just he was a traditional. I mean, I come from a traditional Jewish background, so there was the carbohydrates, your bread, your challah, and now it's Pesach. There's Passover. They eat matzah. They eat this laden flour food. He unfortunately succumbed to this terrible cancer, and both sides of my family, my mother and my father's side, they all suffered from cancer, and they all suffered from cardiovascular disease. And I just had a light bulb moment. I said, this is ridiculous. This is really ridiculous. It can't be this way. And I just realized it's in the food. You keep on doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is absolutely absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And that was the journey. It was 2013, and I eliminated all forms of carbs. There was carbs in the nuts I was eating, but not in the sense of starches, not in the sense of grains, not in the sense of fruits. And and my health started to improve. And interestingly enough, I was born deaf. I was born with a low immune system, which caused my middle ear, my ear ossicles, not to vibrate. And I had 11-year operations and 4 grommet replacements, and slowly but surely I got my hearing back. But I also grew in the first 2 years of my life, and during my mother's pregnancy. My parents were not affluent and couldn't afford meat. So the first 2 years of my being in my mother's womb, sorry, so I'd say 2 years and 9 months. So there was no meat, I never had that nutrients of meat. So that I honestly believe that was one of the biggest causes of my low immune system, and I lived off gamma globulin injections from the doctor through my teens, to try and strengthen my immune system. When I eventually migrated out of my family's house, I learned to sort of eat for myself. And my beginning of my interest in nutrition was I became a bodybuilder at 20 years ago. I did a year of bodybuilding, and I couldn't grow. I couldn't get big, and eventually it was because I was under feeding myself. I wasn't taking in the calories, and my obsession with nutrition and our stress obsession began when the results came from, wow, is this what food can do to you? And so I've always had this interest in human performance and food, and I think the lesson that can come from this is self-discovery. I think nutrition, once again, nutritional science, and sorry if I'm waffling too much, you need to ask questions, otherwise I'm just going to get disjointed. But I think from the example that I can give to everyone is, you don't need you don't need actually anyone. You don't need anyone to inspire you. I think my inspiration came from myself. The education in which I received was self-taught, and also not being afraid to really just figure it out for myself. I think people are so scared of, I mean, if you look at the last 3 years, you can see how absolutely programmed people are. It's mind-boggling. It's almost, I mean, I would say there were days when it affected me so much. And it's not the fact that I was locked up. I love being locked up. I can go for days in my apartment, watching YouTube documentaries, learning for myself. I can do push-ups, sit-ups. I don't need people to fulfill me. And when I saw what happened to people, it depressed me. It really affected me. I just don't understand how people can be like that. But in hindsight, if you look at what's happened since 1977, it's nothing really changed. It was just a product or a result of what has happened since this the slow degradation of nutrition in society. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's obviously been a lot of programming over the decades as well, and we don't always see it. Obviously when you're in it, you can't really tell. And there's a lot of people that like your father and your parents, they're like, well, this is how you remain healthy. You eat low fat, you eat a bunch of healthy carbs and vegetables and things like that. And it's just a matter of recognizing that and seeing the evidence for yourself, and then just relaying that evidence. And it's great that you've been able to do that, and hopefully other people will learn from your example. How long have you been on this train doing the low carb? Well, first of all, what exactly is your diet now, and how long have you been doing it?
Well, I like to do a lot of self-experimentation. And I've done some radical things. You know, if I look at I've been involved in the supplement industry even in my bodybuilding days. So I just get, I shouldn't be allowed to be in a laboratory where there are other maybe bad things or perceived bad chemicals. I should really people should keep me away from that, because I'm just so fascinated by the influence of let's say nutrition, supplements. So my diet preferably is full carnivore. Now, with that being said, I love macadamia nut butter. I really, really do. But it affects my bowel movement. And I used to really, I love English cucumber. I absolutely love English cucumber. In fact, because my sweet tooth is so sensitive, English cucumber is, if I think to my youth, English cucumber is as sweet as watermelon.
Wow.
When I eat it, and I stopped eating that because it makes me feel completely heavy. It makes me feel gaseous, like you cannot believe. And I've just come. Speaking, you must understand that as an individual, one of almost 8 billion people, I grew up constipated. So just to tell you a story, when I went to Israel as a youngster, my father, who was also a pharmacist, gave me some Imodium, which prevents diarrhea. And I said, "Dad, what's this?" So I said, "It's if you get diarrhea." So I said, "Dad, if I get diarrhea, it's a blessing." It's a blessing. Yeah. And so for me, being regular, or I should rather say being pain-free and being without having this permanent breaking wind all the time, is a sign of being healthy for me. And if I incorporate any form of plant food, and this is just me, and this is once again why I say I don't think science and nutrition should be in the same sentence, because there is none. Because science puts, and I don't think medicine and science should be in the same sentence either, because there is none. And there might be a small, but unfortunately there's a balance. There's a lot of non-science here, and there's a lot of science there, but there is none. You know, and that's just my opinion and my experience. And I think maybe if I'm lucky, I'll be around for another 20, 30 years. But that's the journey that I'm on. However, just getting back to what I was saying, the plants, fruits, that I just don't think, sorry, it's just, I have so many thoughts when that come into my mind, and to sort of narrow it down into like a choke to get the right pattern that I want. I just don't, we are such a primitive, unevolved species, the humans. We are so programmed. And that's the problem. So we don't ask questions. We take everything that the priest, the rabbi, the imam says, the doctor says. So you go to a doctor and he says to you, say, look, he says, you must have five cups of fruit and vegetables a day, and all you do is this. And he says, you must take, you go and you first go to the doctor. I'm not feeling well. What's wrong? Sore throat. And I feel a little, if you're lucky, he'll tell you how you must eat, and that he will prescribe the typical fruits and vegetables in a cup. How big's your cup? Is it an espresso cup? Is it a mug? Is it a beer mug? What is it? What is that cup? Firstly, and then you must take this whatever it is, and you just go, yes, okay. So that in itself is just be programmed. There is somebody who was smarter than us that came along and said, right, this species is, we can just tell them what to do and they'll do it. They'll lap it up. They will lap it up. So getting back to me, if it works for me, I will do it. If it doesn't work for me, I won't. I'm not going to do it. I won't push my agenda on you, and I just don't do it to me. You must be free. I believe completely in freedom, and I believe in the right to choose. And I don't believe in imposing my. I have been polarizing in the past. I have been very abrupt, abrasive with regards to my views and my opinions, but I've learned to temper it. I would like, and why I do what I do, which I'm sure we'll come to later, is because I want people to ask questions. That's all I want. I want people to ask questions. I don't want people to lap it up. I want people to ask questions. Why can this bloke do what he does how can he do it?
So let's
it's not immune.
Sean, let's get into it. Tell us about what you do. Tell us about these extreme feats of endurance.
Okay, so I think just to understand it, I never ever set out to do what I did. I've been involved in many businesses, and I've been isolated a lot because a lot of the stuff I did was surround myself around social media, and I lived in a bubble. I kind of still live in a bubble, but I live in a more sort of I've started to prick the bubble in certain areas, and it pops, and I see things, and I start to ask questions, and so I have never ever been an endurance person. I've always been a sort of a fast twitch orientated muscle person. I was a ballet dancer. I've done combat sports. When I started cycling, I just did time trials really, and my maximum distance was 40 kilometers. And I used to make a joke, at 41 kilometers, my wheels fall off. For me to venture, for me to do a 100-kilometer ride was like maybe once a year I might go and do a 100-kilometer ride. And but in 2018, I went to France, and I did a Grand Fondo, which was 178 kilometers over many mountain passes, and I just kind of enjoyed it. But what I did notice is that the food that I ingested was, I worked it out. I did eat, and I didn't ever comprehend the fact that you could do this without refueling, but I had 691 calories on the ride, and one of the reasons why I ate was because amongst one of the stops, and they were giving out all these sports gels and all these there was fruit and there was bread and everything. Because it was a big event, there was a stand that was giving salami. salami pieces.
Nice.
And I just thought it was like completely like bizarre. So I went and I ate that just for the joy of eating something which was just completely out of place in amongst all of this sugar fest. And but what dawned on me was the Indonesian. I was riding with a Paralympian, but he needed Coke. He bonked all the time, and he was completely, the energy, not to take away from his physical abilities, and also he did have a disability, but he just couldn't. I was astonished that I was fine. I was riding the same exactly with him side by side, and here was a person that just completely bonked. But what I did notice is that I really enjoyed spending an entire day on the bike in the saddle. I came back to Cape Town, and then I just started doing more and more rides that started going into 3 hours, started going into 4 hours. And so what I started to do was I started to ride in circles. It sounds really bizarre, but that's what I did. I found a 4-kilometer loop, and I just started riding around there, and started riding 100 kilometers every single day.
Wow.
And I never ever felt like I needed food or energy. And one of the reasons for also using that one loop was because it was close to home. So should I get hypoglycemic, I think it was about 6 or 7 kilometers away from home, and I could easily just come back and sort myself out. But I thought to myself, well, how far can this actually go? So in 2019. The Jordanian tourism board invited me to go to Jordan to do a race. They were helping the promotion of a race that ran from the Dead Sea to the Red Sea, and I took my brother-in-law along with me. And now I hadn't competed in any events for 10 years, and I honestly. I don't ride with anyone. I really do not ride with anyone. I don't have anyone really to measure my my ability with really anymore. I kind of can look at somebody else's data. I know about power. I know about average speeds and so on and so forth. So I just said to my brother-in-law, who seconded me in the race, which was 198 kilometers. I said, look, my goal for this ride is to not eat. I want to finish 198 kilometers. And I think by that stage I think 198 was one of the longest rides I'd ever done. And I just went, I was just so, I think the energy in the beginning of the race just got me so excited, and I broke away for about 40 kilometers right from the word go. And I remember my power output was, I think, around about 319 watts, which is not pro standard, but it was well above it was not well above, but it was slightly above my FTP. And I did that for, I think, almost 90 minutes. And I felt fine afterwards, because eventually the lead group caught me, and I remained with them. And then the only problem I had was I was going to finish with a group of ambassadors behind me, but by that stage, from the first time check, they were 15 minutes back, and by the second time check, they were only they were over an hour and a half back. So, and also, I thought they were 15 minutes back. So I sent my vehicle to go and just get a time check, and I only had a half a bottle of water left. and I'm riding through the bloody Jordanian desert. And after an hour later, they rock up, and I just decided, well, I'm not going to die of dehydration here, so I'm just going to keep going, you know. So I finished a credible 5th overall on the day. But what was surprising, my absolute, I was absolutely elated. I was not hungry at the end of the ride. I burnt 4,500 calories, and the only time I ate was a handful of keto nuts, which was just basically macadamia nuts, and I think there was pecan nuts in there. At the hotel 2 hours after I'd finished, I'd already packed my bike away, and I was just completely bewildered by the fact I'd ridden so hard, such a long distance, and I was fine. I was not hungry. Yeah. So that was the first kind of, like, this is incredible. So now I'm thinking to myself, how far can this actually go? So I came back to South Africa, and I felt like I had a new toy, and I just started riding. And of course, the social experiment hit the world, and we were locked down for, I think in South Africa we were locked down for like 3 months or 4 months, and I didn't have an indoor trainer at that stage. So 3 days later, an acquaintance came and gave me as a gift a set of rollers, which are a device which you use in track cycling to warm up. So you put the bike on these rollers, and your bike creates centrifugal force, and you balance, and you ride. And it's generally, people generally use rollers for warming up 45 minutes before an event. And so I was locked up. No one really, you could just go and buy groceries, and you can't ride, you weren't allowed to ride on the road. So I just started riding on these rollers. And first it was 45 minutes, you know, then it was an hour, then it was 2 hours. And then I was riding 3 hours, because, you know, you've got to balance, you've got to concentrate, because you can't lose your focus, because you just slide off. You really have to focus. It's not something where you can stand on and relax. You've got to keep pedaling, otherwise you'll fall over. So I just started in 3 hours, then I built it up to 4, then I started in 6 hours, and then a friend of mine wanted to do a promotion to give back to people who've helped out in the issue that we were facing, and I decided to see how far I could go for 9 hours. And the goal was to ride for 9 hours, which I did. The reason why I say the event afforded me the opportunity to have witnesses to see that I'm not eating, and I'd already done a 9-hour ride in my flat. In that period of time that I had the rollers, I rode 4,000 kilometers on rollers. Yeah, and the reason why I could equate that was because the power meter, I was generating the power. So the power meter was giving the information to the indoor platform, which would work that out according to your weight, and you'd travel on this indoor program called Zwift, and I rode 4,000 kilometers on a set of rollers over that period of time. So I rode 370 odd kilometers for this event on the rollers, and the coffee machine was broken. I remember the coffee machine was broken. I went to an office block, and I rode in somebody's offices so I had witnesses, you know, to see that I wasn't eating. Because anyone can really go out and say, yeah, I don't eat. I can also do that. I ride 400 kilometers and I don't eat. You just have to say that. I mean, how do you prove that? So you need witnesses, of course. You know, you need And even in the race I did in Jordan, the commissaires, the referees said, "Yeah, this guy didn't like." There was just we didn't see him eat. I mean, because when the group comes, they call their vehicles, and you can see them giving the gels and giving the sugar water, and I'm just riding along, watching all of this go down, and they aren't riding faster than me. They aren't performing better than I am. It was actually like, I actually got amused. And interestingly enough, I took 2 other athletes with me in 2021. One is my partner, and she became ketogenic a little over a year prior to that. She rode a faster time than I did in my first event. Okay. She rode a faster time than I did. Okay, we did have a tailwind, but on the paper, she rode a faster time. She didn't have any fuel. She rode 198 kilometers.
Yeah, wow.
And she won her category, and she beat some of the elite men. And it was quite amusing because they all she's a very attractive young lady, and they all came to her, "Can we help you? Can we help you? You can." And eventually she was like at 150 kilometers, she was passing those oaks that were so like bravado. And, and those guys were just packing down the sugar water. And we took a gentleman with us, a really nice guy, an Italian bloke. And he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it because he was getting dropped. I had to push them both. Eventually at one stage, I'm a good teammate. But he just kept on saying it's unbelievable. He's never ever seen that before. Unbelievable, because he experienced low blood sugar a few times during that bout of exercise, and he actually became ketogenic after that.
Wow.
Nice.
He could not believe it. No.
Sean, on these days when you're doing these really long rides, are you just eating one big meal at night time, or what exactly are you eating?
So let me I need to get this across. I really do damage myself with what I do, because it's not easy doing what I do. And with regards to my meals, of late they've been so one of the I've just finished a kind of like an experiment with some full fat double cream yogurt, which stated it's got stabilizers in it, but these stabilizers, to my understanding, are of plant nature, or plants. They're fillers or whatever, and they have affected me like you cannot believe, as if I was eating food, vegetables and fruits. Wind, gas, bloatedness, bad bowel action. And the reason why I bring this up is because I do a lot of experimentation. I will add food types to my diet just to kind of figure out. I may have to get up and put the lights on because we're getting some overcast weather. But my main meal if I want to go and perform well, I will have a load of butter. Butter for me it's like high octane fuel. Eggs, depending on my intention. If I'm going to ride for 6 hours, I'll have between 6 to 7 eggs. Look, it's like not even 600 calories, 6 eggs. But I think the eggs, the butter, I also have full cream, also have some full actual cream. Not always, but I find that's a lovely fuel source. But it's 100% cream. It's not. There's no carbs in it. Truckload of salt. Yes. Like ridiculous amounts of salt. I go through grinders. I think every 2-3 days I'm filling up like a big grinder like that. I don't measure. I just do that.
And
when I see like when I say again.
Do you put it into water and then drink it, or how you?
I put it in my water bottles. I put it in my eggs. I put it everywhere. I eat raw meat. So I just pour it all over the raw meat, and I dab it in the raw meat, and yeah, I eat it like that. And then I use a raw whey protein. I get no sweetness, no. I use raw whey protein, and yeah, and that's it. And for me, it's nutrients. For me, it's I don't eat for taste. I eat for, I know this is energy, and I know this it's nutrient dense, and that's what I eat for. I don't go out. I don't frequent restaurants. If I do, it's a steakhouse. I know the steak. I go to one steakhouse because I know that they're going to give me good meat, and I know there's no basting sauces with sugars. It's just steak. So that's what I eat. There's nothing complicated about what I do. It's the same sort of thing. A lion goes out there. He doesn't go, well, what am I going to eat today? I feel like I'm going to have some buck, or I feel, no, do you know, rabbit will be good today. No, actually we had rabbit last night. Let's have, they go out there and they get what they can get. And I think, I'm terrible at a conversation because we've used food as entertainment. We don't realize that food is not it's not entertainment. Food is merely there to sustain life. It's merely there to sustain life, and it's not something we're supposed to have every single day. We're not designed. Our digestive systems as well. It's like we complain about worn out elbows and wrists and knees. What about your digestive system? That's not designed to be attacked every single day, 5 small meals a day. Who came up with that nonsense? That's just nonsense. It really is. So yes, so I think at the end of the day, I formulated my ideas, what works for me. Well, I've applied my ideas into practice, I should rather say, and they work for me. And that's because I'm a loner. I'm an absolute loner. I don't really subscribe to the masses at all. I have some very far out theories and ideas.
Yeah. But I mean, look, the results speak for themselves, and people can say that's all they want. It's like, no, you can't do distance. I get so many people saying that you can't do what you do, even the way that you do it. You have to eat carbs. You have to do that. That's been proven false in a number of different studies. I know you're affiliated with the Noakes Foundation, and Professor has shown this conclusively. And he was the guy telling people for 30 years, no, you have to have carbs. You have to have carbs. And I was going, oh gosh, guys, I was wrong. And I've done it, you've done it, and the science is there to support it.
Well, so that also, what happened to Noakes was absolutely and utterly disgusting. How here's a man that admits, I'm wrong. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I admit he took accountability. He admitted it takes a very rare individual to admit fault. Even Carl Sagan says that science must be approached with the utmost skepticism and the most open mind, to not discount anything. Okay? And it's what happened to, and I watched that case, I watched what happened. I know some of the people that just turned their back on him. And I grew up in a generation where we were made to be made aware of what happens when authoritarian bodies, dictatorships, people who want to control other people, I've been made aware. And so I'm of the person that can't be quiet. I refuse to be quiet.
Mhm.
And also my life is, I've got nothing. So you can come and sue me, you're going to get nothing. Really, I have got nothing. My bikes given to me, partnerships, I have zero. And I've made my life that way. And it's not like I set out to be that way. I'm a capitalist. I like, there's some things which I like, but I can't be quiet. What's happening to people is I can't.
Mhm.
I can't be quiet. I'm not a philanthropist. I'm not a humanitarian. I'm a moody person. But I can't be quiet. I will not be quiet. You can't, because if you are quiet,
Yeah.
1939 to 1945 will just happen all over again. And if you think I'm wrong, go and look at history.
Yeah.
If you think I'm wrong, go and look at history. Human beings have the shortest memory in the entire universe. We cannot look further than our cell phones, from our mobile devices from to yesterday. We forget everything. But the problem is there are people who with malevolent intentions, ill intentions towards other people, that want to control us and manipulate us.
Mhm.
And I believe that no.
Yeah.
No.
Sean, you're a deep thinker. Can I just read one of your Instagram captions? Because it's pretty, it's out there. It's a bit almost spiritual. Most often when I ride, especially when I go deeper into the state of ketosis, things seem to be more vivid, lucid, and at the same time, I feel like I am transcending space and time. And for a moment, the asphalt that I travel over seems like an endless cosmic body.
Yeah.
And that's pretty out there, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I think anyone who's done particularly ketosis and then hard training and exercise can relate to that.
Yeah, I think nothing comes from there's an old-fashioned saying everybody uses. Nothing comes from a state of from a state of comfort. You've got to go out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Some of the greatest minds of our time. I mean, Pythagoras wouldn't allow his students to come into his lectures without them being fasted.
Seriously?
Yeah. So
Dr. Chaffee, that is up, Anthony. That's up your alley.
Yeah.
Yeah. The person who wrote the Kabbalah, the Jewish mysticism, there were states that he lived off a berry, but he was primarily fasted when he wrote the Kabbalah, which is one of the most sacred mystical Jewish doctrines. All the great religions of our time, whether you believe that they are just basically talking about extraterrestrials or not, they may differ on politics or religious politics and various things, but they all agree on one thing, and that's fasting.
Mhm.
There is fasting in every major religion. Western Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and Christendom. The Knights Templar, they were almost ketogenic. If the history, some of the history records of the Knights Templar, they implemented small amounts of meat. They weren't, but there were times when they restricted food intake. And they drank wine in a way that it was almost medicinal. It was almost only red wine, but the way it was mentioned, there was obviously some reason for it, and that is I believe that we are this vessel, and in order to trigger certain mechanisms, we use chemicals. The drugs work on us, but we have this internal mechanism that creates our own chemical clockwork that is triggered via a lack of, and that is the lack of food. We have this. We have this incredible vessel, and only if 99% of the world could tap into that, can you imagine how society would be? Can you imagine the homeless people? Unfortunately, we have homeless people, specifically in South Africa, not wanting bread, eliminating carbs. They would become ketogenic. They wouldn't be hungry enough and desperate enough to cause crime, because they are so hungry they need to. It leads to bad actions. Hunger is the most debilitating feeling a human can feel. It's scary when somebody goes into hypoglycemia. It's terrible.
Mm.
It would change society if you had to change the way people function. But we are programmed to be hungry. We have nutritional bodies which tell us this is what you should have. It's carbohydrate.
Mm.
It's your right to have a lunch hour. It's your right. You must have lunch. Okay.
Yeah.
And we all it is just feeding. It's feeding one industry to another industry. That's what it is. It's just a conveyor belt of giving to one to another.
From food to farmer.
Yeah.
It's 100%. I grew up in a pharmacy. At the age of 13, I got my last £2 pocket money a week, and my father said to me, "This is your shift from 1 to 6, from 1 in the afternoon to 6 in the evening. You now work at the chemist." I mean, I learned about medicine from a young age. I learned about upselling from a young age, and I worked in pharmacy. Do you know what's interesting? And likewise for today, we go in, we buy a product, we just put it in our trolley or in our basket. We never pick it up and go, well, what's actually in here?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does. Nobody does.
Yeah. Well, when you talk to them, you start pointing out that there's all these different ingredients on there, and they start looking at them. Then they start getting their mind blown, because I always tell them,
Yeah.
"No, what about this? What about this?" Well, we'll just look at the ingredients. If it says more than salt, then don't get it. And then, or people, we'll get something like, "Oh, look, this is a carnivore thing because it, has some meat in it," and it'll just look at the ingredients, and it's just a laundry list of nonsense and unpronounceable chemical names and things like, well, there's all these things you don't really want, and the second ingredient is sugar, and the next one's wheat. So, maybe you don't want those, and then you start pointing that out. I'm like, I had no idea. They just put all this crap in there, and it's like, yeah, basically anything you don't cook is going to have sugar in it. They're going to put something in it, and
well,
yeah.
It's 100% what you're saying. And when we came back from Dubai, not Dubai, when we came back from Jordan, we stopped off in Qatar, and we were looking forward to something to snack, and the same old walk entire, if it's Dubai or Doha, it's just walk, trying to find a place which resembles some sort of raw ingredient that you can eat. And we came past, and you could see it, keto restaurant. It's keto restaurant, and I was, no ways, I can't believe it. And I looked at my girlfriend, and I said, let's just go. Come on, let's. And we're looking in the ingredients, and we're looking, and there was nothing that they served which was keto.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. And I called the manager over. I had to ask. So I said, but there's nothing here. It was bread. It was, and it wasn't like gluten. You know, no, I think there was gluten free bread, but there was just, the other ingredients were just carbs. But there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. And that's the problem. We can literally package something, call it what we want, and it must be that.
Mm-hmm.
It must be that. I mean, I've seen keto bars that have got proper sugar, sucrose. Proper sucrose. And I asked, I said, but it's not keto. So I said, no, it is, because it's got less than the 50 gram. You know, if you work it out, I said, no, but it doesn't matter how much. You can have one gram of sucrose, it's going to kick you out of keto. You know, it's the worst sugar ever. You know.
Yeah.
So people just have no idea.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, I guess a Snickers is keto too, because that's less than 50 grams of carbs, right? So it's like, no, that's insane.
It's like, you know, if you go into I said, you know, you get a green list, an orange list, and a red list. You can just see that the number one thing on the red list is sugar, sucrose, sugar. How can you call it keto? You know?
Yeah.
It's like it's unbelievable, you know. So you know, you get different schools of thought that say, no, you must keep it below 25 grams a day, keep it below 50 grams a day of carbohydrate, of total carbs. But the one thing they all agree on is that the number one thing is sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say too, you know, you were talking about all these guys refueling, you know, eating all the you know, the sugar gels and all that sort of stuff, which is a very common thing for people to do, especially athletes and endurance athletes. But you don't refuel at all. And that's one thing that, you know, people ask me, so what do you refuel with? What do you refuel with? And to me, I wouldn't refuel with anything. But have you come across that? Have people spoken to you? I mean, I guess you eat the butter and things like that. If you were to suggest someone would just have a stick of butter and just, you know, chow on that.
Well, I do like kind of you know, what my body would want, like my predisposition, what I'd naturally be drawn to. So when I have bonked many times, when I say bonked, it means I've gone through low energy and I feel like I need to eat. But what happens is I calm down. I don't panic, because the average person would think, holy shit, I need sugar. It's just a game over. So it's almost as if when it first started happening, I had to I had to sort of take the leap of faith that's saying, okay, Sean, calm down, soft pedal. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, woo, it's like the engine starts to kick back in. And it's almost as if people, a lot of discussion around carb burners, once you bonk, it's game over. But so many times I'm going to say bonk, and I just ride through it. It's like I ride through it. But what do I eat? I have eaten probably on now, out of 730 rides, I have eaten on 20 of those rides. I've worked up. Yeah, at the beginning of this year. So I suffer from chronic fatigue. Okay, you're going to sound really crazy now. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2017.
Wow. Shit.
Yeah. I got my first bout of overtraining syndrome in 1998. I used to the intensity of exercise. I used to do 660 push-ups and 880 sit-ups in 1 hour.
Oh,
what?
Worked it out.
That's really good.
660 push-ups and 880 sit-ups in 1 hour.
So 660 push-ups, is that that's more than
600, and that's a combination of wide and diamond.
Is that like, it's like 10 per minute?
Yeah.
For 60 minutes.
No, I think it's even more than that.
Yeah.
And I used to get welts in my palms, and I used to use my knuckles, and then I used to get like calluses on my coccyx area. I was really strong in those days, in 1998. And then one day, and I had a rule that there was 24 hours in the day, and I had 24 hours in the day to do my set. I used to do it to the point of vomiting. That's how hard I'd push myself. And then one day I came back from work, and my bed wasn't even made with sheets, it was just a mattress, and I bombed. And for 2 weeks I couldn't do anything. And that was my first kind of overtraining kind of symptoms. I remember there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. Exhausted. And then in 2009, I got Epstein-Barr virus with infectious mononucleosis and proper. I couldn't believe I actually was diagnosed with this, like ME kind of vibe, and I was really in a bad way. And then I got over that, and I ended up winning our provincial time trial championships after coming back from that. And then when I started my business in 2014, I was awake. It's no word of a lie. I was awake for 20 hours a day for 8 months.
Right,
and I used to train. And I was on social media. I used to sleep 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours in the morning, because my main market was actually Australia. So I knew that I had to be awake for the Australian market. And then I got really ill in 2014. Sorry, I got it before that. My father lost his business, and that was one of the reasons why. Also, the stress also basically killed him. But we couldn't afford to keep him in hospital. So my siblings, he wanted to die at home. Well, he had no choice really, but we nursed him for 6 weeks, and I worked during the day, and I had the 8-hour shift with him at night because he had a drain coming out of his lung that permanently drained with this terrible infectious like mucus gunk that came. So I had to carry him to the toilet when he needed to go to the toilet, and he had to be medicated all the time. And so I never slept. I never slept for 6 weeks, really. I used to catnap, and that burnt me out. And then I got another, and then with the business, I got burnt out then. And then I lost my business in 2017 owing to a bad partner. And that's when that just destroyed me as well. Anyway, so what happens with how I manage it? Well, the diet has been amazing. I really believe that wholeheartedly. And I do crash. There are days where, like 48 hours, I had a really bad start to the year. It was probably at the worst I've had it, because I couldn't perform like I did last year. Last year I put so much into my physical. I was so passionate about showing that, right, you don't need carbohydrates to do anything really. Okay, but this whole misnomer that you need carbohydrates to perform at great intensities, that's also nonsense. For the first 6 months of last year, and you can go into my Strava and the rides I've done, I am burning almost 1,000 calories an hour for 6 hours.
Damn.
And there it is. You can, and I put not just the Strava data, I put the stages cycling data there, and the more no one sees that. I mean, people, they just sort of give you kudos, but no one reads the captions really. Nobody looks at the data. Nobody looks, and when I say 0 refueling required, so if I'm burning 1,000, that's what the pros are burning at full gas stages, 1,000 to between 900 to 1,100 calories an hour. I'm a 50-year-old male who is. I'm not even taking in food. Forget about it. I'm not taking food.
Sean, on the age thing, perhaps a final question. You're 50 years old now. How's your performance tracking relative to your younger years?
Well, it's an unfair thing to sort of comment on, because I've never ever done endurance until the last real 5 years of my life.
Okay.
So I've always been like I say, I've always been a fast twitch muscle fiber person. And I think I honestly believe that carbohydrates stifled me and my progress in life. It really did. It prevented me from performing at the highest level. It prevented me from performing at the highest level. I recall when I used to ride when I was 16 years old, I would bonk 20 Ks from home, and I could smell the macaroni and cheese that we're going to eat that night. I could smell it. I remember in those days there was no cell phones, no foods that we could like quickly eat. That's a long time ago. I remember lying in the long grass outside of Cape Town because I was scared that, it was like an unsafe area. I was hiding away. And I remember pulling out the long grass and sucking the roots. I was so desperate.
Wow.
I was so desperate. I would never consider, like I said before, I'd never consider riding longer than 40 kilometers. I had a loop. The loop from my house to the top where I used to was 43 kilometers. Okay. But going longer than that was like just like unheard of. I just called it not on. And the reason for that being is I honestly believe is because food creates an energy. The energy will give you ultimate purpose. If you're giving your if you're giving your body bad energy, your body's not going to really want to do things. How does an individual go from just going 45 kilometers? Yeah, that's like my limit, and I'm happy with that. Where I'm now at a point where I go out and I'm not content if I haven't got 110 k's on my device. I only warm up after 3 hours.
That's badass.
How does it? How? Yeah. People go ride up. I'm riding the same road. We've got some beautiful scenery in Cape Town. I'm riding the same road over and over and over again. And there's many reasons why I do that, but how? I should be getting old. I should be getting slower. I shouldn't be, it is the energy that, because I really believe I'm giving my body what I believe to be what it's supposed to be given. People will say, well, it's not, but it's not isolated to me. I've got a German Swiss girl who there's no relation. We've never ever met before. She became keto, so it works for her.
Yeah.
What about the Bushmen? The Bushmen who go and hunt for 8 hours.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing. What we speak about macronutrients in the Tour de France. They used to eat steak and meat. They used to package meat and eat that. But we forget about that. Why? Because somebody figured, well, let's give these guys sugar. Do you know? I'll tell you what. Cycling is some of the most. It's the most addictive quality. Cyclists have some of the most. They abuse recreational narcotics. You just have to go and read the book by Paul Kimmage called The Rough Rider, and they aren't. This inhaling of gels is not about feeding your energy. It's about feeding your addiction. It's about feeding your addiction. It's how then you've got people telling you that there's 1,000 papers telling you that you perform better on carbohydrates. So you need carbs for a coffee ride, do you?
Yeah.
Understand what I'm trying to say? So you need that croissant for a coffee ride.
Yeah.
Going out with your mates, laughing, joking whilst you ride. stopping, having a croissant, running back. Tell me, have these guys figured it out that your body can only store so much glycogen? That it's in your muscle. Once it's saturated, once your muscle walls are saturated, once your liver is saturated, stop eating it. No, just keep on eating it. They're not feeding their energy, they're feeding their addiction. And tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well,
and I can prove it a million times I'm right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, I mean, just with your, I mean, like 730 rides now, and you've only done 20 of them with eating. And when you're eating like, butter and meat. So you certainly don't need carb. And that's, that is something that we are taught in biochemistry in our undergraduate degree. Not everyone takes biochemistry, but a lot of people did. And doctors in America are supposed to. It's part of the prerequisites for medical school. And yet they are some of the leading people saying, no, you have to have carbs. It doesn't work like that. Well, think back to your undergraduate degree in biochemistry and your biochemistry. When you stop eating carbohydrates for 24 hours, you start making carbohydrates. You start making liver glycogen, muscle glycogen, ketones, and you keep doing that until you run out of fat. And then when you run out of fat, you die, or you actually run on your muscles and you start breaking that down. Once you run out of all tissue, you die. But it takes a long time to run out of your fat stores. And like you're saying, putting out around 1,000 kilocalories per hour is the professional cyclist league. Okay, so not many people are doing that. And so even high level endurance athletes like that, maybe around where you can maximize. Who doesn't have 6,000 calories available of fat in their body? I mean, there are probably some people that are on the verge of death that are so emaciated and starving. That's it. So I don't care what sort of endurance race you're doing. Like, you have enough, and it doesn't matter how skinny you are, unless you're like actually truly emaciated. Anyone who's healthy and has a healthy level of low lean body fat, you will have enough energy for a week without eating. And I mean, it's nice to have numbers on that, because if you're putting out 1,000 an hour and you're going for 6 hours or 12 hours, well, 12,000 calories. Like, I definitely have more than that. I definitely have more than that.
Me too.
Most people do.
Well, I also believe that my muscles is a source of energy. I also believe, but the one thing that I know that does affect me is my fatigue levels. When I am fatigued, I feel that my body doesn't want to produce the energy, or what it does is it stops my body from producing the energy. So it's almost like a parasympathetic nervous response. So regardless of what fuel you have, it switches off the mechanism. It says, no, you've done too much. So I've had to learn to kind of cool it down, because I call it, when I'm metabolically fit, my maximum burn rate is actually 6,000. Although I've done 6,700, which was like incredible, and I do believe I can go a further distance. I've just got to taper it off. But I really hurt myself when I go out there. I remember I did 3 big rides 2.5 weeks ago, and my eyes were like blood red from the one ride. I don't know why that happened, but I mean, I literally felt like I was pushing myself so hard. Because of the cumulative training that I'd done. It was, the last ride. Because I'm so passionate about getting that information across, for just one person, if they can say, I've got to try this. I've got to try this. If one person just, for me, then it's one person.
Sean, where can people find you? Where can people learn more about your stuff?
I have a website, seansako.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Be wary. My Twitter is not like my Instagram. It's I have some.
You're pretty out there.
Passionate. Yeah, I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate about politics.
Really, I can't imagine it.
Okay. Just a warning. I'm a modified conservative, if you can call it that. And yeah, I also believe wholeheartedly that in a universe where in the known universe where they believe they understand that there's over 700 quintillion planets, that we are probably the zoo of the universe. I'm a big believer in.
I think you're the prime lion at the moment. They're watching this madman ride 6,000 calories worth without eating.
Look, I don't do it all the time, eh? Just I am a human being, and I do suffer. And sometimes I've also got a scoliosis that I sometimes it takes me, my back just goes seizes, and I can't get up, and it takes me like 2 hours to get up. Now, I really do damage myself. Yeah, but it's not enjoyable in it, but I kind of live, no excuses. It's kind of, it's not. I do complain. I'm not this bastion of just like I want to be like. I'm a human being. I hurt. I have issues. I have my own fears, anxieties. I'm just a human being. I'm not. I just wanted to find out for myself, and I want people to ask questions.
Well, it's a cool mission, and I think you're going to inspire, or you are inspiring, a lot of endurance athletes and people in general. So, Sean, thank you so much for joining Anthony and I today. It was a really great chat, and we really appreciate your time and everything.
No, like I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me and giving me the opportunity, and and if one person can, one person.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, man. I think this is a very important piece of evidence for people, because a lot of people are hesitant to try keto or carnivore because they're like, well, what about endurance athletes? How do I refeed? What do I do about these things? And I tell them from my experience, and I tell them from the different studies that I know about. But it's great to see someone like yourself who's really doing something actively, just putting out just tons and tons of effort, and on just the fuel that you have already available in your body, which on paper in the biochemistry textbooks is what is supposed to happen. But it really matters what happens in the real world as well. So it's great to see you as an example for that for others.
Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much. I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.